Another day and another change of tack in the UK's battle against coronavirus. This time, anyone over the age of 70 will be told to stay at home and self-isolate. For how long? The country's health minister was unable to say. When will it start? That too remains unclear. But Matt Hancock says the government will be able to force people to quarantine.
Well, we are going to take the powers to make sure that we can quarantine people if they are a risk to public health, yes. And that's important. I doubt that actually we will need to use it much because people are being very responsible. Yeah. And people need to be responsible.
There's growing concern in the UK that the official response hasn't been strong enough. Schools haven't closed and there's no major lockdown in place. More than 200 scientists from some of the world's leading universities have written an open letter to the government calling for action to stop the spread of the virus. It said, by putting in place social distancing measures now, the growth can be slowed down dramatically and thousands of lives can be spared. One major concern here in the UK is that the Public Health Service might be unable to cope with the impending rise in cases. According to EU data, the UK has fewer hospital beds on average than most European countries, including Italy, France and Germany. The government says it's putting aside more than $6 billion in emergency funding for healthcare to cope with the virus. Its plans include taking over hotels and turning them into makeshift hospitals. The man leading the fight says every single person in the UK will be affected by COVID-19. But there is growing unease about the approach this country is taking.
And how do you think ordinary people are dealing with this?
Well, we've already seen the impact it's having on supermarkets. For example, most people in the UK who've been to their local supermarket in recent days have seen empty shelves, particularly basic goods, things like canned items or toilet roll. Today, supermarkets themselves took the unprecedented step of writing another open letter urging people to try and be a bit more thoughtful when they're going to the shops. Part of that letter said, quote, please think before you buy and only buy what you and your family need. Now, at the moment, the government and the British Retail Consortium say we're well stocked and there are supplies to go around, but people's behaviour simply needs to change. But once again, without the government taking action here, it's pretty much left to supermarkets. One supermarket I visited the other day, a supervisor told me that he was quite reluctant to try and stop people, clearly angry consumers, and tell them that you're not allowed to buy this or allowed to buy that. So we may see some more government action there in terms of rationing these goods. But moving forward, the wider concern for the UK may be that where these goods come from, almost over half of their imports currently come from the EU. When it comes to the food that the UK consumes, 30%, so almost 1/3 comes from the European Union. If the lockdown in Italy and Spain becomes prolonged, we could see an even bigger impact on supply chains here in the UK.
The UK government has come in for some criticism for its press handling of COVID-19 and its messaging. I mean, that's going to be increasingly important to get right in the weeks and months ahead, isn't it?
Very much so, and that's something that we've seen a particular criticism of the UK government from the opposition. Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, writing today in the Daily Telegraph, which critics say has become a preferred option for the government to try and talk. What they're doing is sending messages through preferred mediums rather than being open and transparent to the media on the whole. Now, obviously, the government will say that they're busy trying to focus on things, and since Boris Johnson came into power in July last year, his message has been to get Brexit done. We don't want to talk too much. We want to see action. The problem